When most of us picture a psychologist, we imagine a quiet room, a comfortable chair, and a conversation built entirely on trust. The primary objective of clinical psychology is healing. To achieve that, a therapist creates a safe, empathetic environment where a patient's experiences are accepted without judgment, and everything said is strictly protected by doctor-patient confidentiality. But when a psychologist steps out of the clinic and into a courtroom, those rules evaporate. In the legal system, the person being evaluated is no longer the client. The client is the court, or the attorney who requested the evaluation. That means doctor-patient confidentiality completely vanishes, and the information uncovered is destined for the public record. The professional community recognizes a strict boundary termed an irreconcilable conflict. A therapist cannot ethically serve as a forensic expert for their own patient. Why? A therapist unconditionally supports their patient, while a forensic evaluator must remain detached, neutral, and actively skeptical. When personal freedom, child custody, or massive financial settlements are on the line, the justice system cannot rely on an empathetic advocate. It requires an objective scientist who is willing to scrutinize the facts. Because the stakes in a courtroom are so high, a forensic psychologist cannot rely solely on a subjective clinical interview to find the truth. Simply asking an individual how they feel or what they remember leaves too much room for bias, memory errors, or intentional deception. To counter this, evaluators initiate a rigorous discovery phase, heavily relying on collateral data. Before reaching any conclusions, they analyze a massive paper trail, combing through police reports, historical medical files, school transcripts, and employment records. The goal of gathering this external data is to establish a concrete historical baseline of the individual's mental state and behavior prior to the legal incident in question. This documentation protects the integrity of the evaluation. For instance, a subject involved in a recent car accident might claim the crash caused severe anxiety and memory loss. If the forensic psychologist pulls medical records from 3 years prior showing the exact same symptoms, the objective data overrides the subjective claim. Establishing this documentary truth elevates forensic psychology from a subjective professional opinion to a rigorous evidentiary standard that a judge or jury can actually rely on. The reliance on objective data is especially critical when dealing with malingering. In forensic psychology, malingering is the intentional fabrication or gross exaggeration of psychological symptoms in order to achieve a specific external reward. According to the adaptational model of malingering, individuals don't lie simply because they are deceptive by nature. When facing decades in prison or seeking a lucrative financial payout, people engage in a calculated cost-benefit analysis. The environment actively incentivizes them to fake an illness. To definitively catch this, forensic psychologists use symptom validity testing. This chart visualizes a statistical baseline, the normal, expected distribution of symptoms for a patient suffering from a genuine psychological disorder. Evaluators look for specific statistical anomalies. One method is the rare symptoms strategy. If a subject reports symptoms that almost never occur in genuine clinical populations, it triggers a massive data spike far outside the normal curve. Another method is indiscriminate endorsement. This happens when a subject, eager to prove they are sick, falsely claims to suffer from every single symptom on a checklist, creating a statistically impossible density of psychological distress. There is also the floor effect. During cognitive testing, a malingering subject might intentionally fail incredibly simple tasks, like recalling their own date of birth, that even severely brain-damaged patients typically pass. The resulting data shows a dramatic inversion of normal human effort. Detecting fabricated symptoms is not about a psychologist trusting a gut feeling. It requires proving statistical impossibilities that expose the lie. The culmination of this entire process, the clinical interviews, the deep dive into collateral records, and the rigorous validity testing, is the final forensic report. Unlike a clinical evaluation, which ends with a treatment plan for the patient, the forensic report exists to answer a very specific, targeted legal question. It tells the court whether an individual is competent to stand trial, or if they were legally sane at the exact moment an offense occurred. For this report to be admissible, it must meet strict legal criteria, often referred to as the Daubert standard. This rule mandates that a forensic psychologist's testimony can only be used in court if the testing methods employed have been thoroughly scientifically validated. Ultimately, the forensic psychologist is bound by a strict ethical imperative. They are expressly forbidden from acting as an advocate for either the defense or the prosecution. Their sole obligation is to remain a neutral friend of the court. By strictly separating the empathetic healer from the rigorous investigator, the legal system gains an objective tool. It's a necessary division of labor that balances individual rights, ensures genuine victims receive care, and protects against calculated deception.